Eventually, like after a few days, and depending on the weather, it's going to come like this. The most delicious.
Hello, welcome to Solar Flare, where I interview people who inspire me, and a woman herself who does so much for the world in a humble and subtle way, just walking your talk and living by the earth, is my dear friend Jaana.
Hi,
Welcome.
Leonie.
How are you, darling?
I'm good. Thanks for that beautiful intro. How are you?
Yeah, I'm going all right. I'm going good.
Good.
We thought we'd touch base today a little bit about your organic living, in particular about sprouting, nourishing yourself from your own garden daily and from your sprouts. Is that right?
As much as I can, yeah. Yeah. And so I've been
Yeah.
doing sprouts for a long time. I lived in the van for years on the road and I was sprouting that whole time. So you can
What
kind of do this on the move and just make sure you've got really good food happening.
did you do that on the dash when you were actually driving? You had them in sunlight. What was the deal there?
Sometimes, depending on, like, you don't ever want to put sprouts in full direct hot sun. So I'd usually go along and when I'd stop and parked up, I'd pop them on in some nice light, but not like full direct sunlight. You don't want them to dry out too much, depending on the day. Yeah.
Oh, sprouting might be something to some of us that's a little bit novel, like we try it and we fail. So not having them in direct sunlight is one of the keys. What are some other keys to sprouting? You've got some sprouts there to show us, yeah?
Yes.
Are they coming on?
These are probably 4 to 5 days old, and
Yeah,
that's
right.
alfalfa and mustard sprouts, which is delicious.
Yeah,
And
okay.
these are my favourite. These are broccoli sprouts. Hopefully that's not too much glare coming in on the.
Yeah, no, we can see them.
So, like, I've tried. I know they sell these sprouting kits, but I tried using one of those little tray things where you stuck the trays, and I didn't work for me at all. Didn't seem to want to work, so I just used these. So I've got
Okay.
three of these jars from the op shop, and they're just three. I measured it yesterday, so I could say what quantity it is. It's like 3/4 of a litre. So that's a pretty good size. And you want something you can get your hand in as well. A jar with a narrow lid, because you need to be able to get in to get them out. Um, yeah, you don't want them too kind of crammed in there.
3/4 of a litre, did you say? That's huge.
That's what that
Yeah.
holds, the jar. Yeah.
All right. So can you talk us through the process? How much
Yeah.
seeds do you put in? How much water? Where does it all begin?
Okay, so well, first of all, you need to have a jar and you need to have something to go on top of the jar, which
Yeah.
I use a bit of fly screen mesh, or
Yeah.
you could use a bit of net curtain. And then you need to have a rubber band or a band to like fix that on. So that is fixed on. And then you need to get your seeds. So I like to sprout alfalfa.
Where do you get those from?
Well, these are from A. Vogel. I'd recommend a really cool little Australian company, actually, australianwheatgrass.com. So that, because they do really nice and a massive variety of different seeds you can sprout in more bulk quantities. So you've got less packaging going on, and they're GMO free. There's no chemicals, right? I
Okay.
do get these. I've been getting these alfalfa from Bunnings when I go in,
Yeah.
but I prefer to support these guys.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the ultimate thing you can do is, if you've got broccoli and kale and things growing in your garden and it goes to seed, you save your own seed. Then you've got
Okay.
your own seeds to sprout. I tend to do alfalfa, broccoli, radish, kale, And I always throw mustard seeds in, which I've always got a supply of mustard seeds for cooking,
Okay.
because that gives a nice little bit of fire in there. I used to sprout mung beans a lot, but they are very big, so they need a lot of extra soaking, and that quite often they go a bit off, and you can't eat the sprouts if they've gone off. You'll get very sick. So
How do
you've got
you know if they've gone off? Is it just a mold?
Yeah, they won't look good and they won't smell good. And I did actually
Okay.
eat some once and I got the worst food poisoning.
Right.
So I don't tend to do mung beans, but you can do mung beans, lentils, chickpeas, you know, anything that'll sprout. I tried rocket. You can do rocket. I really like the smaller seeds. You only need to soak them for 24 hours and then you start the process. So I could show you what I'll do is show you like
Okay.
roughly how many I would put in this jar.
And so you're saying the larger the seed, the soaking process will be a little longer.
That's right. So you can Google all that. Like it'll tell you online, a
Sure.
chickpea maybe 3 days. I've never really tried. Yeah, I did try and I don't think it worked very well. It's like,
Sure. Okay.
stick with what works, which is a lot of different stuff. So, okay, so I'm going to probably about roughly loosely cover the bottom of that jar. So it's like a fairly thin layer in the bottom of the jar. Like you want to play with this and experiment.
All right.
And I'm going to put a few mustard seeds in too, not too many because it'll make it a bit spicy hot. You can do onion seeds. So I've got about this much, not much. But find your way, like play with it and find your way because everything's an experiment. That's how we learn best, right?
Sure.
So I've got that, and then I've got my screen on the top, and I'm going to put some water in. And it doesn't require much. Now, try to, at this point, I know a lot of people haven't got access to clean water, like to unfluoridated water. I'm lucky I'm on rainwater here, but at least for the soaking process, try to use some spring water or some like really nice water because it's sitting in there, it's absorbing that water. So
Sure.
if you can at that point, like use the cleanest water you can get. If you haven't got great water, and a good thing to do with your water anyway is to bless your water because the water becomes, they say, the water becomes very pure at that point with your blessing on it. So
beautiful point.
So there we go. So it's 12:30 today. So I'm going to put that on my windowsill. It doesn't matter at this point about light or anything. And tomorrow at around the same time, I'm going to drain that. I'm going to drain that water off and I'm going to start the rinsing process. And now you need to rinse twice a day. And try not to forget because you don't want them to dry out. Because at this point you're rinsing them and then you're draining them on the sink. So on a nice slant on your draining rack and let them drain really well, like for at least 5 minutes because you don't want extra moisture. Extra moisture can create mold. And then I put them in the dark cupboard.
Okay, so this is after 24 hours.
Yes. And then
and you've already rinsed it twice in that 24 hours and now you're going dark cupboard.
No, the first soaking process, it just sits there, you don't rinse it, it's just absorbing the water. Once you've done that 24 hours of soak, drain, rinse, drain, and then keep it in the dark. And you need to then rinse it twice a day until you get little shoots emerging.
Okay.
Like quite a few little shoots emerging. They might not all emerge at the same time, so let at least 3/4 of the seeds have little shoots, little tiny white shoots coming. And then at that point, you continue all the time. You're going twice a day, rinsing and draining. But at that point, you then bring it out into the light, onto your windowsill, not full direct hot sunlight, but light.
Okay. After you've got enough little shoots on there, you're bringing it out. Yeah.
and then you still continue rinsing and draining twice a day. So it's very simple. And
Mm.
eventually, like after a few days, and depending on the weather, it's going to come like this.
Yeah, nice. Look at
You're going
that.
to have the
Yum.
most delicious.
Yum.
The other thing I make sure I do once it's getting to this stage is shake it a bit, just to disperse the seeds around the jar, because you don't want them in a big clump.
Shake it like a
Shaky,
Polaroid picture.
shaky, shaky, shaky. So they've got a bit of space. And I just leave it on its side on the window. So I don't leave it like that because you want the air getting in. So I leave it on its side so that they've got this kind of space they've got a bit of space for themselves to kind of do their thing.
So
And
no
then,
water in there whatsoever. You're just making sure you've drained it all out for your 5 minutes before you put it on its side.
yeah, but you still
Shake
want some
around.
twice a day. Yeah.
And we're looking at what, 4 or 5 days for the small seed?
Yeah. Yeah. Depending on the weather, like if it's really sunny, it happens a lot quicker in the summer.
Is that the warmth then? The warmth is going faster, you think, maybe?
Yeah.
We don't
And
know. Yeah.
broccoli is my favourite. Oh, broccoli sprouts are so delicious.
That's your favourites, your small seeds. So with the mung bean poisoning that you had, was that how long do you remember leaving them for a particular amount of time? Like how long is too long for sprouting?
Well, I mean, this is years ago. They'd gone, they'd sort of had a bit of brown coloration. Like, I've never had a problem with the alfalfa or the smaller seeds, but this is what I just don't even do mung beans anymore. It's like, no, I'm doing what really works really well. Because, yeah, I was really, really sick. Yeah, don't eat things that you think can, if they start to smell a bit funny, I always give them a bit of a smell. And you
Yeah.
can get to the point as well, if you've got too many in the jar and you can put them in the fridge too at this point and to help them keep. But, it's a matter of like just get into doing it and feel your way and experiment. And, it's such good nutrition.
They're really packed with nutrition as far as
Like each of those little sprouts has got all the energy that it needs and everything to grow a whole broccoli, but it's in this small state, so it's just full of really good nutrition. And yeah,
any
really nice in soups or in salad or sourdough toast with avocado, a layer of sprouts on top and a little squeeze of lemon and a bit of black pepper.
oh nice.
It's just great. I
Nice.
love my sprouts. Or you can just like eat them on their own. Just have a handful.
Making me hungry.
The other thing I thought to say was, so I've got 3 jars, so I tend to get, like I might get one jar soaking and maybe 3 days later I'll get another jar on the go. So I've always got them happening at different stages. Yeah.
You got me all inspired, so I'm going to give my sprouts a go.
Good.
Yeah, we can all get cracking on our
So
sprouting.
you don't forget, just one thing I've written here on my little list is don't forget, once you put your sprouts in the cupboard, sometimes you can forget that they're there. So until you kind of get the hang of what's going on, I usually write it on my list, like sprouts, so I don't forget. Because if they dry right out, it's not going to be great.
Okay, so if it dries out beyond that, if you haven't rinsed the twice a day, if you're leaving it doing it once a day, you kind of can throw them out. They're ruined. Is that?
Once will be okay. Like
Once is okay.
Yeah, as long as they're getting something, like if you left them like 2 days, they're probably going to be like just
Yeah.
So do yourself a little note. Sprouts.
Nice. Post-it
So that
note.
you remember.
It sounds good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us,
Okay.
Jaana.
It's such a great thing to have in life. It's so easy, and I don't know if people listen to Pam Gregory. Pam's always talking about how food supply is going to It's not the greatest, our food supply. It's not very organic, a lot of it. It's not very, things like this are not that available, but, you can just so easily do this at home.